The 9 Years Podcast.
Episode 26 of the 9 Years Podcast, the AFC Wimbledon audio fanzine available every Thursday on iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, Podomatic.com, and also keeping you entertained during the week on Twitter, Periscope, Facebook, Instagram now, Bebo, MySpace, and Friends Reunited as well. Just search for 9YRS Podcast. I am Nick Draper, and I'll soon be joined by Stuart Deakins as we discuss what's happening at the club, including a review of the Mansfield game, a look ahead to the Notts County game, and all the other League 2 action this weekend, some January transfer window chats, the birthdays game, a new surprise feature that I'm very much looking forward to introducing to Stu. Plus, our main feature today takes my older brother Chris off the mean streets of Eastbourne and onto the show for the next instalment of our Wimbledon Quiz, and we'll also be exclusively revealing if Hayden the Womble is an actual animal or just, as some rumours suggest, a man in a giant costume. Before all that, Stu, a philosophical question for you. Well, let me set the scene first. Travelling home from work on Monday night, changing trains to Wimbledon as I do every working day, and I treated myself, being a little low on blood sugar, to some chocolate from the little kiosk there, and so much choice on offer, I plumped in the end for a Whisper and thought, well, a Whisper suddenly struck me as somewhat of an effeminate choice of chocolate for a grown adult male. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so I say it quietly, to be fair, Nick, but yeah, I don't mind a Whisper bar. It's not a bad choice of chocolate.
But does it not strike you as more as a female's choice of chocolate? I think there are more traditionally male chocolates, and I do wonder, like, eating my Whisper bar on the train, if the other men on the train were judging me somewhat for not eating a Mars or a Snickers or a Toffee Crisp, for instance, if they still make those.
I never really judged anybody by what the chocolate eats, to be fair. I must admit, I suppose if you look at branding, you look at Yorkie's branded just for men, isn't it? I know I do always say to my girlfriend that she can't have no more buttons. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's, I wouldn't say you're wrong having a Whisper. That's quite nice.
But what if I was to eat maybe some, like you say, some chocolate dairy milk buttons? If I was eating a packet of those as a grown adult, is that maybe too much? Maybe a Kinder Egg?
No, the same rule. To be fair, because the buttons is a very small bag, isn't it?
Yes.
It's meant for kids, isn't it? I think really. Although we're all big kids, aren't we? I suppose you could say that.
True, yeah.
I don't know. It's a branding, isn't it? If I saw you eating like a curly whirly or some of that, I associate those to be more children.
Okay.
Stuff that they'd have in their packed lunchbox.
But you don't think there's a definitive sort of male-female choice of chocolate?
I don't say about apart from Yorkie, because I say the branding is very much, isn't it, just for men.
What about a flake?
Too messy.
Yeah.
And also, if I remember properly, there wasn't an advert with a flake which had more of a female person eating it.
So there is that sort of gender divide, I think. Do you know what I'm going to do, Stu? I'm going to put it out to the Twitter listeners that are out there that follow us on Twitter, that engage with us. If you think it's acceptable for myself as an adult male, okay, you can discuss between yourselves whether I qualify as an adult, but if you think it's acceptable for you to just simply tweet us, #Whisper yes, and if you think it's unacceptable, #Whisper no, and we'll do a Twitter vote. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Sounds good. We're on it. Other news this week is, how cold has it been for you down south? You're further south, you're on the sort of border, you're in Crawley. It must be it's cold enough up here. I get the train from Berryland Station every day. I think I'm right in saying Berryland is, as the crow flies, possibly the nearest train station to Kings Meadow. And honestly, it's the coldest place on earth. Wednesday morning, minus 27 degrees. That's how cold it was.
Joe, it's actually interesting. I've got a friend who's going to Sweden, flying out on Thursday night, actually, for tonight. He is proper looking forward to all the cold weather and the snow. I don't see the point. I don't stand the point of going on holiday to go somewhere colder than what it is in your own country. That don't make sense to me.
You've been to Tenerife and places and things like that. I must admit, I don't mind the cold, but wow, it's suddenly turned, isn't it? We had this mild December, and then since the turn of the year, it's like, whoa, like ice cold, wind, snow, everything. Yeah,
it has turned, to be fair. The weather, like I say, yeah, where I live out of the sticks, so yeah, we are open to all the elements, but yeah, it's been proper cold, but I don't mind this weather, to be fair, although I wouldn't mind it warming up a little bit before Notts County on Saturday.
Yeah, and Kings Meadow could definitely do with it being a little bit warmer when we return there, because it was a bit nippy on the weekend. We'll get to the Mansfield game shortly. Before I do, time to introduce our little teaser for this week, Stu. At this point, I might invite Chris, my brother, as I've mentioned, to join us. So, Chris, you can take part in this little teaser as well if you wish.
That's very kind of you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm good like that. So, don't tell me now. Obviously, I'll reveal the answer at the end of the show. And I know this is a bit mad because the whole show today we're doing the quiz anyway, but this is like an extra bonus question for the listeners to try and play along with. So by the end of the show, I shall reveal the answer to this question. On Saturday against Mansfield, we were 1-0 down, but we came back to win 3-1. When was the last time in a league game that we came from 1-0 down to win by 3-1? That is the teaser.
That's a tough one.
I think that's a tricky one, actually.
Yeah, I can't think. Can we get any clues?
I will give you one clue, and that is that they play in the same colour as Mansfield do. We'll leave that with you, and then the listeners can have a think as well, and I'll reveal the answer at the end of the show. Talking about Mansfield then, and Stuart, it was very interesting to hear on the back of the result, after a fantastic performance in the second half, 3-1 win, that the Mansfield manager, Adam Murray, was commenting that he felt that we were a very physical team, number of players about 6 foot plus, 6'3". He said they were basically out-battled by our physical approach, something that we're hearing more of. It's very strange to hear it, especially coming from the Mansfield town manager. Do you think he has a fair point, though? Was that where the game was won and lost in the second half?
Yeah, it was. It's interesting. I'm just reading through now, because I think it's, to be fair, the local paper up there put some classic quotes in there from him. He must have been talking for about half an hour about the quotes they got on there. But, yeah, it's interesting. We said before, didn't we? I love the fact that we are being classed as powerful, ugly, horrible. All the things that we know teams that do well in this league, they tend to get promoted. So it's interesting. Like at the start of it, they said they took a gamble and started line up very attacking. I don't think playing Matt Green up front of his own was very attacking, personally. But yeah, he did talk about the 6'3" inch plus players. Well, apart from the forwards, I don't think we had too much. I think Barry Fuller's a 6'3", isn't he?
No, I wouldn't necessarily agree. And I think if we also look at the goals, I think a more key attribute for us, as opposed to being physical and strong and big and whatever, is pace. And that's what at the end of the day won us the game. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think we boxed them in, didn't we? We come out of the second half with a 4-4-2, and everyone knows a 4-3-3 didn't work. For whatever reason, it didn't work, and Neil Hardy was proactive at half-time to change it and admit it didn't work. But as soon as we got the balls into the box, I just felt I thought we just out-battled them, and in the end, our will really forced them in to just play in very negative football, and in the end, we boxed them in, and it could have been more than 3-1 easily.
You mentioned about the formation you got wrong. So the big key to the change at half-time, switching from a 4-3-3 to a 4-4-2, was swapping Jonathan Meades from left-back, putting him into centre midfield alongside Danny Borman, bringing Callum Kennedy onto left-back. Why do you think Neil Hardy didn't just do that from the off? Why did he decide to go with this strange new formation that, let's be honest, didn't work at all?
Well, he was quite open, wasn't he, and said that the reason he didn't change it is because the back four has just been so solid. And we can't argue with that. In terms of our goals against, it's been quite decent, really, in the last couple of games. I think my gut feeling is when you've got Meades, who is such a flexible player, and you've got Kennedy, who is he's not as good as, I don't think he's as good as left back in terms of defending as Meades, but he offers a lot more going forward. I just thought the midfield three never looked right. It never looked right with Danny Borman, Bartram and Sean Rigg. I just don't think Bartram and Rigg can play as a discipline in that three midfield. I just don't think it was right. So I think we have to, we always do moan that Neil Hardy doesn't have plan B, plan C, etc. But he was, he went for it. He said, I did well in training, we went for it. But it's refreshing now that we are able to make a few subs. We've got a few players playing different positions. And in Jonathan Meades, I know we can get on to man of the match in a little while, but in terms of, for my contender, was him by miles. I thought he was good. He's excellent at left back, but went into that midfield area, and to be fair, gave us such a balance in there and come with a goal.
Yeah, we'll get onto the man of the match things shortly as well. The other key talking point from Saturday was definitely one of the most bizarre, surreal things I think I've ever seen at football. I've never seen anything like it before in my life. We score we believe to be a perfectly good equaliser through Lyle Taylor. Both teams come back. They line up to kick off and restart the game at 1-1, and the referee is currently having a conversation with his linesman, and then calls for an offside, and play starts again with a free kick. Let's stop the action there for that point, so it goes back and Mansfield is still 1-0 up. What do you think, or do we know what made the referee change his mind? Because I, at the time, was watching, I was looking for a flag, there wasn't one, I didn't see one. I think video footage has since confirmed that there definitely was not a flag raised. Did the Mansfield bench put pressure on? Is that why the referee changed his mind? What happened in your opinion? What What was the situation?
Well, yeah, we've looked at the footage back. At the time, we were too, I was too busy celebrating. To be fair, I normally take a look. I think it's just age. I think just tells you to have a look at the linesman quickly to make sure it's not offside. Because no one likes to celebrate and be a fool when it ain't given, do they? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've never done that.
Which we all did.
We all did. And to be fair, Chris, I don't tend to get caught out too many times because I'm just holding the tooth and I always make sure I have a look. So it definitely wasn't a flag. I think what happened is that the Mansfield bench, who, to be fair, must have been watching a lot of Wickham and Crawley action from those. The bench was so influential, and we'll probably get onto it, but I'm not a lover of the bench all getting up in arms and putting pressure on the linesman. They've got a difficult enough job as it is. But I think what they did was they asked the question whether Sean Rigg got a touch. Because I think the goal was given because they believed there was no touch, or they didn't know if it was a Mansfield player who got a touch, which would have meant Latte was on the side. So I think the Mansfield bench asked the referee to speak to the linesman and say who got a touch. And then somehow they all come to the decision, as Neil Hardy said, that all of them agreed that Sean Rigg got a touch. Well, then why was the flag not up in the first place?
It's quite handy that the Mansfield bench all agreed that it was an offside and shouldn't have been a goal. Amazing that, wasn't it? That they all agreed the same thing exactly the same time. They were in the face of the linesman and the fourth official in the first half, but then it was our bench that seemed to cop most of the flack from the fourth official in the second. So I think our bench became wise to their bench, tried to do the same thing and got criticised for it. I did not enjoy that performance by the referee and the linesman at all on Saturday.
No, it wasn't a good show from the officials at all. But all's well that ends well, because almost immediately from the restart, Mansfield take a free kick, they launch it upfield, it comes straight back, and all of a sudden Lyle Taylor's in on goal, and he equalises straight away anyway. Cue even more manic celebrations than that followed the goal that was disallowed. Have you nothing? I don't think anything's happened like this in football before, has it?
Quite peculiar.
Yeah.
It was weird how it all went as well, though, because on the Dons player, I watched back the full footage, and we all get back into a formation. It's interesting how to be set up, because we all got back into a formation of we scored a goal.
Yeah.
And then it sort of like transpired the players. I remember the bench going mad, Neil Hardy trying to talk to the fourth official who doesn't want to talk to anybody. I don't know why they're there half time. And then it's just literally a hook from Danny Bullman, who I wonder, it's ironic, isn't it? If it wasn't a goal, you wonder if he'd actually been that far deep. But yeah, it was weird. And the thing is, the way it actually happened, I think it knocked the stuffing out of Mansfield early on, because they thought they got away with a decision. They were still 1-0 up. And before you know it, they're 1-0. And really after that, it was if we got a little bit of an extra sort of like, do you know what, we're going to really go and now prove that referees being a bit of a such and such, and we're going to go win the game. So it all happened for a reason.
Everything does happen for a reason, Stu. It
all turned out all right in the end.
Exactly. So looking back then on the second half as a whole, obviously, as we said, Lyle Taylor equalised, Jonathan Meades from a corner, Adebayo Aziz comes on and adds the third. Both players scoring for the second game in a row, which is unique in itself. Stu, who would you say was your man of the match on Saturday?
There was a couple for me. I think Danny Bullman will probably get it overall. I thought Jonathan Meades won him close, just because of how well he played in that second half, bearing in mind that he was asked to change position and never really looked like he was anything out of position. So I'd probably go with Danny Bullman. What I would say is, anyone watching the Dons player action, have a look at Jonathan Meades in terms of his movement. The guy never stops. And the moment that dead ball's put down, he's always on the move, never gives his marker a chance to mark him. And I said, and it's not a case I'm going to say what I said so, but I have said for a number of weeks on the podcast that Jonathan Meades will get on the score sheet. And you can see why now. He's dangerous from set pieces. He's becoming very much one of our specialists from corners.
And Chris, you mentioned there about the referee's performance and the official's performance. Anyone else that you thought are we going to give the villain of the week to the referee, basically?
I think we've got to, really. The ref didn't half see a lot of the Mansfield fouls against Mansfield, but missed none on us. Lyle Taylor, actually, I think deserves special praise for keeping his cool. In previous matches, he's obviously struggled sometimes to keep his temper under wraps, getting sent off at Mansfield, actually, earlier in the season, as you know. But yes, on Saturday, he was targeted a lot, and he ended up more times on the deck in the second half than I've ever seen him. But he kept his cool, unfortunately, a couple of times, because I was sat in the main stand for the second half, and he back-chatted the referee a couple of times, but still kept it under wraps enough so that he was substituted rather than was being sent off. Because the ref had an itchy pocket, I think, and he was dying to give out yellow cards. Any excuse, I think, would have seen Lyle getting a yellow, so he did well. And I did like the story about the fact that the chap he was up against for Mansfield. He got sent off for allegedly elbowing up at Mansfield. Came up to him after the away game and said, "Oh, it's all right. I'll write to the FA. We'll get that rescinded." And he never did. So I think it was an extra sort of tick in the column for Lyle to not only score but get the win and get one over on him.
Well, Lyle Taylor, in our own Man of the Match poll that we ran on Twitter, which Paul Raines very kindly run for us on Saturday, Lyle Taylor actually won 34% of the vote, levelling, tying with Barry Fuller. They both got 34%, so they were our Twitter men of the match, I suppose you have to say.
Ooh.
Yes, it was a tie. Jonathan Mead on 27%, Danny Ballman just receiving just a lowly 5% of the vote from our Twitter followers, but there we go. Man of the Match polls run after every single game for 24 hours from about 5 o'clock every Saturday. Please keep an eye out for those after Notts County on Saturday. We also have our 3-word reports, our hashtag Don's 3-word reports. We ask you to surmise the game, or summarise, I should say, the game afterwards in just 3 words. We had we got lots of responses, and thank you very much to everyone that responded. We're going to pick out 3 though very quickly. On Twitter, one we had from Matt Harwood talking about the substitutions and formation change. Simply put, well changed, Neil. Fair enough. On Facebook, Jerzy Dabrowski said long ball works. There you go, that's interesting. Take on things. And then winner, oh my word, by a mile, I think, to be fair, was, and I must apologise, Matt Harwood at Maverick Matty, if you want to follow him on Twitter, Jerzy on Facebook. And then Jeff Hawley of WDON fame, I'm correct in saying, that is the same one, isn't it? Big fan of the show. Always contacted us on social media. At Shouty Mouse, Don's 3-word report, Venison VV Vici. That is genius.
Brilliant. Absolutely outstanding.
Yes. I don't think we're going to get better than that.
And it's good as well, because it's taken on, just to say, it's taken off really well, isn't it, that 3-word report? It's a lot different. I struggle because I like to talk more than 3 words, so I'm just getting the hang of it really at the moment.
Yes, brevity is key, but we've had a load. Thank you very much to everyone that's replied. Obviously, we'll read out a few every single week. Some great suggestions, and those were particular highlights for us this week. Last thing we mentioned about all the football on the weekend then was Football on 5, the Channel 5 highlight show. Had a little bit of a change around this week. They've had a revamp. The studio audience has now officially gone. Hooray. But now they've split the show in 2 now. So an hour's worth of championship action, and then they split the show. Remember to change your Sky Pluses for this if you watch Channel 5 for our goals. And then after that, a separate show for half an hour, just focusing on the goals. Basically, just showing the goals from League 1 and League 2 in very quick fashion. It does actually seem to work a little bit better, if I'm being honest with you. I prefer the format, the presenters on the sofa with their guests, one of which was ridiculously, again, Clinton Morrison, who I just don't understand how this man has any form of media career. But, Stu, what did you make of the new format?
Yeah, I'm with you, actually. I quite like it. I like the way Channel 5 are either listening, they're obviously listening to social media, listening to feedback, which is something that BBC never used to do, to be fair. Yeah, Clinton Morrison, don't understand what he adds. He has no value at all. I like the other 2 guys. I like Matthew Gray. Michael Gray, sorry.
Yeah.
I like him. I think he's quite switched on. I do like that, to be fair. Although he looks like a bit of a school teacher lecturing you about football. I don't know about that, to be fair.
Yeah, it's all right. Nothing wrong with looking like a school teacher.
But no, in all seriousness, I do like the way he split it. I must admit, this weekend, I actually haven't still watched the Championship. I actually went straight to League 2, League 1 and League 2 action.
Yeah.
So I suppose normally I will watch the Championship first and go from there. So, yeah, I like it. The thing is, the goals are available initially instantly, aren't they? So Channel 5 do have a difficult... I do still wish that they had a feature game from each league. I wish they would do something like that personally, but
yeah, I mean, I think I remember years and years ago often holidaying down in the southern regions or in other parts of the country, and they would actually have a regional highlight show on about 6 o'clock or 6:30. They get that together quite quickly and you get main highlights from the teams in that region. I think that worked quite well. I don't see why it's just on a par with, basically, like you say, just taking a game from each league and doing extended highlights. But I'm sure there's something. They'll tell us things probably about viewing figures and advertising ratios or whatever and things like that. I think that's part of the reason why they split the show in 2, because I think they can actually charge more maybe for an hour-long championship show and then different rate. I don't know. But it seems to have worked out for the best, to be fair, and it's a fine show as it stands.
It would be interesting to see what the viewing figures were against BBC's version.
Yeah. I don't know with viewing figures as well how they calculate those of us that Sky Plus it, as opposed to watching it live, those of us that Sky Plus it and watch it at our leisure.
I read a periodical not to do with football, which is able to strip down viewing figures based on people catching up with the 7-day period. Apparently, the television execs produce that as well. Sky feeds back, or Virgin feedback about who watches it later. So apparently there is a way of doing it, but I couldn't tell you how they do it.
What magazine is
It's
that?
interesting. Yeah.
I'm not telling you.
That sounds really dull.
It's interesting though, isn't it? Because I said this before about Don's Player, where there's a 10 minutes package, which is really, really good. You do wonder sometimes, actually, whether in years to come, whether actually someone picks up something where you can actually just go online and pick up your highlights from the league that you want and something like that. Because the goals now are available literally within, 2 or 3 hours. So Channel 5 probably have a difficult really trying to track the figures, because a lot of people just go online now, from what I understand. Like the goals were available, I think, about 7 o'clock on Saturday. So yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? But a feature game would make it, for me, worthwhile watching. What's the top game in League Two, for argument's sake, and show that. But yeah, obviously the Championship is the big draw at the moment.
You're listening to the 9 Years Podcast, available every Thursday on iTunes and YouTube.
Right, before we go on to our second round of our Wimbledon quiz between the two of you, I'm very much looking forward to it. Just quickly, any updates? Have you got any further forward? A reminder maybe about the teaser. So the last time in the league that we won 3-1 from 1-0 behind. Any ideas? Are we getting any closer?
I'm trying to think who plays in yellow and blue.
I'll give you a clue. It's concentrate mainly on the yellow.
Yeah, so I was thinking, I've got a couple of teams in mind. Mm-hmm. I don't know whether to say now or wait and keep it to the end.
Chuck them out
one
there.
Specifically. I was going to go with Torquay.
Okay. I'm not going to tell you now.
Right.
Well, it might help the listeners. It might spark something in their minds.
It's the only one I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay. Stu?
I'm struggling. I'm still thinking. I will get there eventually. I'm not too sure, to be honest with you. It's quite an interesting question, but I'm still thinking I've got a little bit more time, haven't I, yet? You
still have a little bit more time, but now all your grey matter will now be taken up by the AFC Wimbledon quiz, which, I'm not going to lie, this last time, I think, Chris, you actually won this by 3 correct questions to 0.
I'm holding on to that as my shining... Yeah, I won that,
Yeah, I'm going to suggest we might struggle to get any points between us this time.
Oh, my.
But here's the rules then, listeners. Basically, I will read out the 5 questions. I'll give Stu and Chris a little bit of time to answer them. They don't tell me the answers until the end, and then we go through them almost in a pub quiz style, and then they keep their answers to themselves. So, should we go? We ready? Question 1?
Ready.
Question 1. I'm laughing because, I'm going to change this question slightly. I will accept... Okay, here's what we're going to do. There are 6 current League 2 clubs, 6 that we have yet to beat in a league game since we reformed as AFC Wimbledon in 2002. Can you name, let me be fair, 2 of those?
I can name one of them, I think.
I can name one, yeah.
Well, that's
good. I can take it, yeah. All right, I know you want 2.
I want 2, and there's 6 in total. So I'll give you a little bit of time to think about that. 6 League 2 clubs we haven't beaten a league game since 2002. A little bit of a hint. One of these we have beaten in a cup game of some description on penalties. That might help you. That's quite a good clue, I think. Yeah.
That wasn't the one that I had, so that's cool. I've got 2 now, I think.
Okay. Next one?
Yeah, I think I've got 2. Yeah, go on.
All right. So there are 3 League 2 clubs we haven't lost to since we reformed in 2002. Can you name 2 of those 3? There are no clues with this time, though. Well, I'll just point out, though, that it's interesting that there are 6 we haven't beaten, but only 3 that haven't beaten us. I mean, read into that what you will.
And you want all 3 this time?
No, just 2 will do. I'll be fair. Okay. I like to think I'm fair.
Have we got to write these down?
Well, it'll be helpful, Stu, because you'll forget them.
Stu, you're not. It's quiz, like a pub quiz. He said it in the introduction.
A quiz. By pub quiz, I mean a quiz that occurs in a pub.
1 second.
Clue there was in the question.
I'm going to go back to question 1.
This is going well.
This is going well last time.
3 teams that we haven't...
3 teams that we haven't lost to since 2002. As AFC.
That's easy. That's easy, though, isn't it?
From the current League 2. Well, it is. When you think about it logically, it actually really is. But
that's worrying if I'm thinking about something logically, to be fair. But I've got 2 already.
I'm confident we might get some points on the board then. I might have been wrong. We shall see.
I think I might get 1 point so far.
Okay.
1 point.
Right. Should we go to question 3?
Go for question 3.
FA Cup replays have happened this week. It's been FA Cup third round replay week. This season we lost, of course, in the first round at home to Forest Green Rovers on a Saturday. But when was the last time we won an FA Cup game on a Saturday?
Crikey.
It's a great question.
Oh, and I think I know who it is as well.
But when was the last time? It doesn't have to be at Kings Meadow. Either home or away, but last time we won an FA Cup game on a Saturday.
Okay.
Just the opponent. Just the opponent.
Shot in the dark, that one, but we'll just see what happens.
I'm not sure.
The name of the opponent will be fine. I've got the dates and stuff, but I won't ask you for that. But just the name of the opponent. I like the fact that there's a very intense silence because I think you're really thinking. These are good questions, right?
Yeah, I've already taken my shot in the dark. So
okay, thanks for that. Have you answered the question yet? Sorry, I don't need to have listeners.
Dear Lord. It's not difficult, really. I have been listening.
Question 4, then. This is a general football question, then, not AFC Wimbledon related or Wimbledon FC related. So on Saturday, Shinji Okazaki of Leicester City became the latest Japanese player to score a goal in English football, in the English top division. Can you name for me, please, the first Japanese player to score in England's top flight?
Actually, I think I can.
Don't need to know who it was for, who it was against, but just who, the name of the player.
Oh, you see, I think
I could probably say it.
Well, the thing is, if I say that my reasons for possibly knowing it, it'll give away the answer.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, I think
really want to beat Stu.
That sounded so wrong.
You love it.
Do we get extra points for spelling it correctly?
No. Well, I can't see it. Stu, it's an audio podcast. I can't see the spelling.
And anyway, it's just IT. Or is that a bit too niche?
Oh dear. Next question.
Yeah, moving on quickly. Right, maths question. I love the maths question. There's 2 parts to it, really, but I'm only going to give you a mark if the actual answer you give me at the end of the day is the correct one. So, can you please add for me together the squad numbers of the starting 11 against Mansfield? No cheating. You can't look up the starting 11.
Bloody word.
You have.
Are you going for like a near number? Will you accept a ballpark?
No, I will accept the answer to the question, which is add up the squad numbers of the 11 players that started against Mansfield on Saturday.
I think you're so funny.
It's a great question. It's also quite irritating because I have to work it out myself.
I'm just trying to think of
who bloody played.
Yeah, that's right.
Come on, this was last Saturday. Nearly a week's happened since. Okay.
So the actual starting lineup.
Yes. The starting 11, no others. Yeah. So I was just double checking that I got the answer correct myself. So there we go.
Oh God, mental arithmetic. Shall I write them? I'll write them down. Hold on.
Well, I'll tell you what. To be fair to you, I'll just give you a little bit of time to work this one out. And whilst you're doing that, I'll just remind the listeners, of course, if you would like to join the conversation with us, don't forget. It sounds like I'm doing an advert on Radio 2 or something. Don't forget, you can join us on Facebook and Twitter. Search for 9YRS Podcast. We're also now on Instagram, which worked fantastically well on the weekend, with a big thank you to Stu's fiancée, Lorraine, for helping us out with that one. Some fantastic photos, so check us out on Instagram as well, 9YRS Podcast. Right. Can I go through the answers now, guys?
Hang on. Yeah, go on then.
Don't have all day, Chris. Right.
No, I'm just... I've got 10 numbers, and I was trying to remember who the other one was, and I think I've worked it out. Going to be 1 or 2 out. Anyway, sorry, do carry on.
Right, should we go through the answers then?
Yes.
Right, brilliant. Stu, you happy? No, Stu spontaneously combusted, having to do adding.
His brain has given up.
He's just, yeah.
Yeah.
You are actually all right there, Stu, aren't you? No, he's gone.
Hello.
There we go.
Yeah, I pressed.
It's alive!
I'm too busy counting.
Well, I know, Stu, it's difficult.
Had to take his socks off.
That's where the people at Norwich are so much better prepared than we are.
Yeah. Well, you had to offend somebody at some point on the show. Right. Can we go?
Too late.
Yes? Yes. Good. Right. Okay. Chris, because you're alphabetically first, I will ask you first. So, 2 League 2 clubs, please, that we have yet to beat in a league game since reforming in 2002.
Oxford and Orient I've gone for
Oxford
my 2.
And Leyton Orient. Stu, who did you go for?
Yeah, I got Oxford and I went for Southend.
Ooh, with the penalties, yeah.
No.
Oh, yes!
Chris is 1-0 up. Stu, you're going to kick yourself and I'll reveal who the penalties is. But the 6 League 2 clubs are Northampton Town.
Cobblers!
Thank you. There we go. Yes, no, actually, it's true. Honestly, we've not beaten them yet. Oxford, as you both mentioned, Carlisle United. Leyton Orient, Yeovil Town, and Stevenage.
There you go.
Stevenage, who we beat the Johnson's Paints Trophy on penalties, I think, partly down to Jack Turner in goal, possibly. That's stunned.
He was definitely in goal.
He was in goal, yes. Well, there we go. So, Chris, congratulations.
Thank you very much. I win. Hooray!
Well, you've got 1 point, yeah. Stu, I think, is going to get a point here on this next question.
I think he will, yeah.
Stu,
I think he knows.
Who are two of the three League Two clubs we haven't lost to since 2002, please?
So we haven't lost to Yeovil
Correct.
or Notts County.
Correct. And the other one...
Do I get a bonus point, Orient?
Yes, not a bonus point, but the other one is Orient, yes. Chris,
That's logic.
Who are your answers for that one, Chris?
Oh, rubbish. I wouldn't even ask me. York and Barnet.
Yeah, that was rubbish.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
Yeah.
It was just a logical question. We've played them the least amount of times.
Yeah, that's what we said
Well,
logically.
that's why I went for Barnet, really. But no, well,
We've played them a few times now, though.
Have we?
Yeah. Yeah. Chris,
I was probably there.
Probably were.
They must have been that boring.
Yeah. They beat us 4-0, didn't they, once? That's ridiculously.
Christ, really? Excuse my language.
Yes, they did.
Did their place,
Sorry, listeners. I went all religious.
At Underhill,
Yeah, I did.
Anyway. Right, Chris, you get first dibs on this one. Last time we won an FA Cup game on a Saturday.
This, I was a stab in the dark at Maidstone United.
It's a great guess. Stu?
But it's wrong.
To be fair, I struggled with this one. I didn't have anything.
Oh, do you know who it was? It was Basingstoke Town. In
God,
October
that was
2010.
The 1-0.
The 1-0, yeah.
The boring 1-0.
That's the game I was thinking of, but I went for Maidstone. Never mind.
Do you remember either of you who scored that day for us?
Was it Sam Hatton?
No.
Oh.
It wasn't a regular score, was it? It
wasn't.
Was it Ed Harris?
It was. Look at that. Well, you don't get any points for that.
Go
But,
Stu.
Ed
Yeah,
Harris.
because I remember it was a boring game and it was a really weird goal. Yeah, I remember that's scary for me. Wow.
Yeah.
It was a very sunny day, I seem to remember.
Was it?
It was. Sorry, that's the bit I remember. Obviously not who we were playing.
Yeah, I don't remember that bit anyway. I'll take your word for that. Next one then. Stu, did you have any guesses to the Japanese player that scored the first Japanese player to score in the English top flight?
See, I've just put a player. I don't actually think he's Japanese now.
Brilliant. No, it's not
crap,
Jack
it's
Hawk
Martin,
or...
No, I went for Park.
Wayne Rooney.
He's not. He's Korean, I think.
He's South Korean, yeah.
Yeah, so I offended them like both you.
Stu, I so wish you'd have said something like Gianfranco Zola or something at that point. That would have been comedy gold.
Japanese is
Wayne Rooney.
Japanese has totally thrown me because there's not been loads of Japanese players.
There hasn't. There's only been about half a dozen. Chris, did you have any ideas? You might have a better. You might have a chance judging who he scored for.
Yeah, for Palace, and I think it was Sunji Hai.
No.
Was it?
No.
Damn it.
I don't even think Sunji Hai is Japanese either, is he?
He's Chinese, I think.
Chinese, isn't he?
They're all from the same area of the world.
Well done, Chris. Thank you for that.
Thank you, well done, Chris. Right.
Area of the world.
Yes, he is.
I'm right.
He is Chinese, Sunji Hai. Never mind.
Oh, well.
The reason I thought you might get this, Chris, is because it was actually Junchi Inamoto for Fulham.
For Fulham.
Tottenham Hotspur on Wednesday, the 11th of September, 2002.
That's specific.
That is specific. I've done my research. I don't ever really do any other research, but you know.
Nothing else important happened that day a year previously either, so that was good.
No, not really.
No.
The day after that, a year early, we drew with Portsmouth, I think, 3-3. But
I think it was. Yeah.
Anyway,
big day for football.
So this is now a tiebreaker, really, because you're on 1 point each. So for the win, Stu, what number did you get to for the starting squad numbers for Mansfield?
I got 127.
Chris, what did you get?
I got 126.
Oh, someone's
counting that up.
Stu, I too have got an answer of 127. So congratulations, Stu. You have your revenge. You have 2 points to 1. Are today's winner of the Wimbledon quiz.
My math skills let me down again.
Even worse, I'm out of maths questions.
And can I also thank you very much, Stu, for getting that correct, because I don't have a tiebreaker question ready. So that's
amateur.
That's sort of dug me out of the hole. But thank you very much. I hope we've all learned something today.
Yes, how to add up.
Yeah, well, yes, Stu has.
Keep trying.
The 9 9 Years Podcast, the podcast of choice for Peter Hawkins and Stuart Castledine. Available every Thursday on iTunes and YouTube.
Okay, guys, now time for a new feature on the 9 Years Podcast, something I'm very much looking forward to. It's a very simple feature that, Stu, you have no idea what's coming, do you? No idea whatsoever. So this is going to be good. So basically what I thought is now we're on episode 26. We've got quite a bit of archive audio to go through. And I thought it would just be interesting to go back and listen to some of the shows and think how different our conversations would come across if we just unnecessarily censored certain parts of the conversation. So what I've done is I've gone back, I've listened to Stu describing our coach journey to Yeovil Town back in September. Here we go. What can you update us with from the road trip to Yeovil?
This is a bit worrying that this is becoming a little bit of a favourite because I got so much on Saturday for services. But the funny thing was actually, because we had which is in a different part of the country, we went to a different didn't we?
We did. Oh, it's exciting. Oh.
Yeah, we did. We went to hey, we saw didn't we? So anyone that sees I don't know why I've not finished it off yet, but it's a great bit of
yeah, when it's it'll be great.
I don't know how many people crack that and of course I have to be one of those. What have you done?
You beeped it and stuff. Yeah, as well.
Oh dear.
Does that say we recorded or say it was like an outtake?
No, that was something that we broadcast.
That was part of your show, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. If you listen back to like episode 8 or 9, I can't remember. I'll tell you what, that was good. That was good. I did it and I'm still laughing at that, sorry. That's just my silly sense of humour.
No, so you beeped it just at the right moment on a couple of them. It was brilliant.
Yeah. I very much enjoyed that. Stu, I'm not going to lie, I've done about half a dozen of these already. we won't blow our load too early, obviously, but yeah, we can do one of those a week, I think, going forward, just to change.
Sounds good.
Change up the show. Some of them might be at your expense.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will be.
But when I say some of them,
most of them,
all of them. Yes, listeners, please let us know your feedback to our unnecessary censors. Not that we steal ideas from other audio shows, of course, but that is flagrantly stolen. But never mind. Before we look ahead to the weekend, then, shall we go and do our other regular feature, which is the birthdays game? Do we want to do another Chris versus Stu for this one?
I feel like I need to redeem myself.
Yeah, should we do it then? Like, if we, for argument's sake, how can I put it? If we did it where, like, we guess the age, if we don't get it right, how far away we are from it, and then add up the worst difference.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Stu's desperate to win.
I keep getting beat. Everyone comes onto this podcast and beats me. Not in that way, but yeah.
Do we even need to censor any of that?
Do you need the beefy machine?
We don't. No, we just got Stu. Just listeners, I wish you could...
I guess they shouldn't be doing that.
Listeners, I wish you could have heard.
Oh, come on, I've got to go to bed.
Stu said off air, but never mind.
Oh, no, I don't want to know.
No, you probably don't. Right. Let's look for some birthdays then on January the 21st, which is the day we launched this podcast. Stu, you can have first guess with Emma Bunton.
Oh, Emma Bunton. I liked Emma Bunton. Mm-hmm. Actually, she's still alive, so yes, I still do like her.
I miss her so.
Baby Spice is no longer a baby. She must be, I reckon she's probably close to her 40s now. I reckon she's about 38.
Chris?
I'm gonna go 40 on the nose.
Well, do you know what? You're both one away. She's 39, could you believe? Right bang in the middle. So there we go. So you're actually tying, if you think about it.
She's bang in the middle of us, eh? Anyway.
She's bang in the middle of you, Stu. There we go. No beat machine required, definitely. This one's going to be a little bit unfair on you guys, I think, but I have to do it because it's another wrestling personality, and you know how I love my wrestling personalities. This is Maurice Ouellette, who is a fairly recent departure from WWE. Chris, any idea?
I'm going to go for 34.
I'm going for 35.
Oh, come on, we're not doing this, are we, Stu?
Well, guessing the ages of celebrities. Yes, Chris, well done. Good to see you've got the idea of the game. There we go.
Doing like the next one up, you know. I'll say 34, you say 35.
Well, Chris, you protest too much, really, because Maurice is 32.
There
So
you are,
actually,
okay.
you are closer. You're only 2 years away, whereas Stu is 3.
Oh.
So, Chris, you're on something like an average of -3, and Stu, you're on -4. There you go.
Happy days.
Well, sort of. And then last one, then, movie actress Gina Davis.
Ooh, who's that?
She's a movie actress.
She was in Beetlejuice as one of the couple that died.
Oh, yeah.
She wasn't Beetlejuice. She was also in Thelma and Louise. And,
I can picture her now.
Earth Girls Are Easy. That's another one that she was in.
That. She was in Earth Girls Are Easy, and she was also in other things such as Stuart Little movies.
She was in other things. Thanks for that.
Yeah, anytime.
It's so descriptive.
And The Accidental Thief, I think. Could be wrong.
No, could be.
Could be. Anyway, Stu, any ideas?
Well, if she's in Beetlejuice and Thelma and Louise, I can't remember. So Beetlejuice is what? Oh, that must be a 20 years old now, that film?
Yeah, if not a little bit more.
I would say she is 50.
I'm going to go for 60.
Chris, you were closer. She's 59.
Yeah, get in.
So, Chris, you have redeemed yourself.
Stu gets a beating again.
Wow.
Nothing wrong with beating now and then. Get used to it on this programme.
There's no answer to that, Stu.
No. Should we move on?
Rather quickly, I suggest.
Yes, full podcast goes overboard. Notts County then, let's look ahead to the weekend. Let's get back to football, let's get back to serious matters. Notts County on the weekend. Stu, first things first, £24 for those that are travelling. How ridiculous is that?
Daylight robbery, isn't it? To be fair, Notts County is a decent stadium, but they've got to look at the pricing at the moment. You know, I paid 25 at Exeter just after Christmas, 24 now. It is a bit of a joke. Actually, just thinking before I do slate off other clubs, what's our most expensive away ticket? It's not that.
It's nothing. It's not
£24.
No, it doesn't take 20, does it?
It just feels, it does feel the pricing is real ridiculous. And also, what they're not doing, what a lot of other clubs have done, is a discount if you book early. So, disappointing. But I'm sure we will still take our numbers up there because it's a newish sort of ground, and also Nottingham's a lovely place to go and visit now.
Yeah, it's a good away day for a lot of people. Nottingham, definitely. You've done your research.
Of course, it brings back shades of early 2000s and going up there 3 times to try and do an FA Cup replay. Brings back nightmares.
Not for some of us, because I only went once, and that was the time John Anderson
scored
that was the last kick of the game.
And then it got played.
Yeah,
of course.
Worked out well for me in the end, but there we go. Stu, you've been doing your research ahead of the game with Notts County, who played 1-1 under the new manager. They won at Crawley on Saturday 1-0. What are you anticipating? Can we make it 4 wins on the bounce?
I hope so. Depends how we go there and play, isn't it? I think at the moment we should be going there with the intention of really, not we don't go there, not we go any place and not win a game, but I think ultimately Notts County, in front of their own fans, I think it's a proper place to try and go and put them under pressure. And we're on form at the moment. Really, I'm looking at the stats and that. It's a really Notts County are an interesting team in terms of if you look at their form against teams in the top half, they are quite low. They don't fare well against teams in the top half of the table, and they language in 22nd place if there was a league table for that, winning only one game against teams in the top half. However, you swing it around to teams if they perform against teams in the bottom half, they are on top of that table in terms of 8 wins. So they tend to beat everyone below them, and they haven't really touched much, probably above 9th, 10th place this season. So yeah, they are decent. Their home form is good. They beat a lot of teams at home. The only team they've beaten in the top half at home who's above them is Pompey, 2-1. So yeah, I think it's a game we should go there and win. Notts County, obviously, we played at home a couple of months ago, and I wasn't overly impressed with them, to be fair. I think they're beatable. I don't think Roy Carroll's that great in goal. I think he is starting to show his age a little bit. So not too bad.
If I remember correctly from when we played them before, they took an early lead and then just decided to shut up shop and try and play out the 1-0 victory, and we turned it around late on. I also remember FA Cup tie, they were against Salford, weren't they, live on television? Again, they didn't turn up that evening, so not that impressed. Maybe a new manager will give them a little bit of a boost, but with our good form currently as well, if you were to make a prediction, where would you go?
If I was to go for a prediction, I probably would say we're not going to lose them. I'm hopeful for probably a 2-1 win, but my head tells me it'll probably be a draw.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go for a draw as well on the Ask a Prediction League, which we'll link to on the Twitter site. I think I was actually only a goal out on Saturday as well, which was frustrating. Chris, what do you reckon?
I'd like to think that we'd keep it tight at the back and try and go for a 1-0, perhaps on the counter-attack, but I'd be very happy with the point and think that's probably what we'll get.
Cool. Looking ahead to other games in League 2 on the weekend, I'm having a look at the fixtures, and Stu, I'm going to, I might steal a march in you here. I'm just looking at the fixtures list. There's one game that stands out for me massively, this coming Saturday. Bristol Rovers host Plymouth. That seems to me that's going to be a big game with a great atmosphere. I imagine Plymouth will they'll sell out their allocation, I'm sure, to Bristol Rovers. Seems like a big game with Bristol Rovers doing very, very well at the moment. They're up to 4th now, I think.
Yeah, there's actually some interesting games as you look across the board. But even to the state of something like Yeovil Crawley, 2 teams, Yeovil got to start really picking their form up. Also, if you look at Newport, Dagenham, Redbridge down the bottom there, and also one we can't miss really is Pompey against Oxford. So it looks quite a good weekend for some matchups really, but also Luton and Mansfield as well. Luton really need to start picking up some points, don't they, Nick?
Yes, they kept a clean sheet on the weekend though, which was handy. Not something they've done very often this season. It's
interesting. I know we have a laugh about Luton, but Luton have really gone for an interesting appointment as their manager. That one could go one of 2 ways. There's going to be no middle ground. There's going to be no middle ground with who they brought in terms of who doesn't perform.
No. It almost strikes me a little bit as if to say they've written off the season in some regards, and they're quite happy just to give a young manager an opportunity to settle in and see what he can do and then go again maybe next season realistically. Other managerial news this week was Leyton Orient have sacked, or parted company is the phrase now going round, which basically means sacked, Ian Hendon. He's been under a lot of pressure all season. Stu, you and I sort of follow on Twitter the Leyton Orient podcast. We were subject to a number of tweets that they sent out regarding the manager, and a lot of their fans wanted him out. He has now gone, and they are now looking at a fixture away at Wycombe.
It's tough. Yeah, it's tough. Wycombe lost at Hartlepool, didn't they, on Saturday? So they normally do travel very well. Leyton Orient, 11th in the table. So yeah, the money. I think it's not a secret that they've spent a lot of money. Interesting that Josh Simpson's still not, as far as we're aware, after Thursday, has not gone anywhere. So you wonder whether they're going to cash in with him or whether there's just not that much of an interest. But they have spent quite a bit of money. Also with their chairman, who's got a crazy a stadium ban for kicking Hessenthaler like the proverbials, which is just he's Italian, isn't he? So they're all a bit nutty, aren't they? Really?
Yeah, so that's people from Norwich and Italians that you now offended on today's show, which is great. Andy Hessenthaler, of course, is bizarre situation now where he will actually be in charge of the team on a temporary basis. I wonder if he'll get the job full time. But there we go. Interesting things going on in League Two this weekend. Teaser. Remember at the start of the show I set a teaser who the last team we beat for 3-1 from being 1-0 down. Are we going to have any final guesses?
I'll be honest, I stuck at Torquay. I didn't. Maybe Newport, but I don't think it was them. No,
because they don't play in yellow.
Don't they? I thought they did. No.
See, if we look at yellow teams, or teams that play in yellow, sorry.
Yeah.
Torquay, I can't remember, but I do remember, and I can't remember if we did, but I think we played Burton. And
good shout.
Burton just played yellow, and I think, if I remember properly, a couple of seasons ago, we did. I think they did come to us when they were playing quite well, and we turned them over.
Stu, you are quite correct. It was Burton Albion, September 2013. We were 1-0 down, and we came back to win 3-1. I can't remember exactly the goal scorers, but I know Andy Frampton definitely scored one from a corner with a powering header as he used to do. A very good victory, I think, actually. You're quite right, because Burton were a decent side. Stu, any January transfer window rumours?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's not been much to go on, really, this transfer window as such. It's been very quiet. Neil's only really made a comment the other week on Don's Player when he said that he probably looked for a couple in, and he would go for an emergency load in one of the positions, which I think, looking really between the lines, probably would be a centre-half if we needed it, because we've got Ryan Sweeney, who's playing well for the other 21s at the moment, so I don't think we need to go too much in that. An emergency load-out market's probably well worth us looking at that. Rumour-wise was that Jake Reeves was subject to a bid from Peterborough, although on Twitter Darren McAnthony has come out and said that there was no truth in that when he was asked directly on Twitter, which is the power of social media now. Other rumour was that we've gone after Dominic Voss at Wrexham, who scored 8 goals already this season, but there would be a bid involved, and they said we put a bid in whether we could afford, but I know he is out of contract in the summer, so whether it would be actually might be in the same region, maybe a Harry Pell, like about 15 grand or something like that. But that's the rumour, and also the one that doesn't seem to go away, Nick, is Matt Tubbs. He can't get on. Well, he has been injured, but hasn't been able to break back into the Pompey team. Doesn't really fit their 4-2-3-1 formation there. And interesting in the week, Paul Cook, basically from how we put it, has basically said, come out and put up a shut up to Neil Ardley in terms of, are we going to make a bid? Because obviously he's been being quite vocal about him. The only other clubs you look at really probably could be after him, I know Bristol Rovers and Crawley were interested. Don't see how he'd go to Crawley personally. Bristol Rovers have released Harrison to Hartlepool this week and have about 5 or 6 forwards registered. So I actually wonder whether we've actually been challenged by Pawcett to put a bid in, because there's not much going on, which is surprising for a player of Matt Tubbs' calibre. If you were to pick one player that you would like to see join us by the end of January and one player that you think could possibly leave, who would they be? Leave-wise, if I could get a player... I think if we're going to bring Tubbs in, I think it has to be one in, one out. I don't see how we could play with technically 5 forwards. I think Oakley, from what I sense, Oakley's going to go out on loan, probably to get some more match time, because he was at Kingstonians, wasn't he, before he got injured before Christmas. But I would say it has to be one out. And if you look at one out, I don't think it's going to be Tom Elliott. He's on a 2-year contract and look like he's doing all right. Lyle Taylor, I pray that we are not going to fall for any bids, so it would have to be Bayo. But I wouldn't say I want to get rid of Bayo, because I think Bayo's played well recently. But I would quite vocal on this one. I would take Tubbs like a shot, and if I was going to sacrifice somebody who I didn't think was going to get inside as much, it probably would be Bayo. But there you go. Time then for a big announcement from everyone here at the 9YRS podcast. I don't know why I said the 9YRS podcast. I think I was in the headspace to start advertising on Twitter and Facebook again. At the 9 Years podcast, next week, a very special interview that we conducted on the morning of the Mansfield game, Kingsmeadow. We'll be broadcasting our interview with an ex-player. I feel like we should build this up more. I might find a little bit of tension music or anything to go with it, Stu. But we conducted it was a fascinating interview on Saturday, and I'm just going to play you a little clip now to reveal the identity of the former player, former legend, former pivotal figure in the history of AFC Wimbledon that will be on the show next week. Here it is.
Hi, my name's Seb Brown, and you can listen to me discuss my AFC Wimbledon career on the 9 Years podcast, available next week on iTunes and YouTube.
How about that, Stu? Seb Brown, possibly, alongside Danny Kedwell, and Terry Brown maybe, and me, possibly the most pivotal or most important person in us returning to the Football League.
Way to talk yourself up there, Nick.
I'm very humble and modest. But no, we're very excited. It was a great interview we conducted. We're very much looking forward to sharing it with you from next week.
Yeah, Nick, it was great. Seb gave up probably a good couple of hours of his time, didn't he, before the Mansfield game, got there quite early, and I just want to say really also thank you to the club, because they very kindly allowed us to have one of the rooms at the club to interview Seb, and it was fascinating. Personally, it was a real pleasure to have the chance to talk to him, and it was great fun. I hope everyone else will enjoy the podcast that we produced for them.
Yeah, we spoke about many things about his career with the club, and next week you'll be able to listen to some of those things, including talk of, amongst others, James Pullen, Steve Evans, Andre Blackman, and John Fashanu. Plus, Stu will also go through some of his famous games that he played for us and what he was thinking and feeling at the time. Fascinating interview. We'll bring you the first part of it next week. For this week, that is it. Do not forget that Notts County on Saturday, if you can't make the game, updates are available through our Matchday Live service on Twitter and Periscope. Updates will be on Twitter, and video footage from before the game and at half-time will be available on Periscope. Just search for 9YRS Podcast. Thank you very much, Chris, for joining us today. Commiserations
Thanks for having me
in the big Wimbledon quiz.
I shall return.
Once again, you have been foiled by counting, but never mind. And thank you very much once again, Stu, for joining me.
Thank you.
And we shall see you next week, where alongside Seb Brown, we shall also be joined by Gus Hiddink, because he's going to explain why he's not actually really done much good for Chelsea whatsoever. We'll see you then.